Hi there crafters, it's Louise with you today on behalf of Off the Rails Scrapbooking, and I'm sharing my take on the January challenge mood board, which was all about babies. But as an added challenge, we were asked to scraplift a member of the design team. So I chose to scraplift a layout by David, and you can find a link to his project on the YouTube channel and also on the blog. So firstly, I'm taking some gel medium and some strips of paper, and I'm just creating a textured background. So you could do this with anything. You wouldn't have to do it with paper. You could do it with texture paste and a stencil, whatever suited you. I also wanted to add a little bit of colour to mine, so I'm using some patterned paper as well. So I've just cut strips of all different patterns of paper in all different sizes, and I'm working my way through layering those onto the page. Now, when David made his original layout, he sort of made it more of a vertical layout, so from top to bottom, whereas I like mine to be in sort of dimensions of 3. So you can see that I'm working sort of in a triangle. So it's from top to bottom on the left hand side, and the point of the triangle is down sort of in that middle right hand side. Now some of the items or mediums that David used I didn't have available to me, so I sort of had to make do, and in this case what I'm doing is spreading around a little bit of white gesso, and it was quite thick and I lost a little bit of the colour underneath, so I'm just using a sponge and some sprays of water just to brush some of that white gesso away. Now, because I like to let my elements dry naturally, I have left this overnight to let that gesso completely dry, and then I've come back to it the next day. So I'm taking some stencils in various different patterns, you could say. I've got some arrows, I've got those numbers, some circles, and really what this is to do is to actually add interest into that background. So you could again use any stencil you liked as long as you were happy with the way the texture actually looked in that background. Now again, when David did his original video, he spread some of this colour around, and I for some reason didn't get the same background effect as what he did, but I kept working with it. So I tried to actually lift the layout that David did originally, but it wasn't coming together in the same fashion, and this is what a scrap lift is all about. So when you scrap lift someone, you might take a single technique to try, you might take a color pattern, you might take a whole layout, you might take photo inspiration. There are a number of different ways that you can scrap lift a person, and ultimately you are still going to end up with a layout that is unique to you. Now, because there was some chipboard pieces, I've added some gold embossing powder to those. And what I'm doing now is just, again, adding a little bit more color to the background, but not necessarily spreading it around. So I'm sort of just adding it to the areas where there's texture and then drying it with the heat gun. I didn't want it to blend in too much with the background color. I wanted to have some of that color just lift off the page. And you can see as it dries that it does start to lose some of its lift, but for me what I did was just keep adding color until I was satisfied with the result that I got. And sometimes it means that I will actually put a page together, add all the elements, so the chipboard and the photo, and have a bit of a look and see if I'm actually satisfied with the background. So this is not a page that I particularly would do commonly, but I found the challenge of actually doing something that was very outside of my comfort zone quite enjoyable. So you can see I've collected a couple of elements from my stash. I've had a bit of a look at what I've got going on. I decided that to bring this layout up to something that resembles my style, I need something circular in the background. So for this I'm using a circle of twine, and I have also used my hot glue gun for that. of which I've just run out of glue, of course, so I had to go find some glue. But that little circle is just to help, again, split the difference between that background and the actual photo. So the photo is, of course, the memory. It's the most important part of the layout. But in the case of this particular page, the background was also important. So I wanted to distinguish between those, between the art of the background and the actual memory keeping part of the layout. So I am also going to add a couple more layers layers behind the photo. It just, for me, it wasn't in the original page that I lifted, but for my particular style, that's what it needed. So again, take a page, scrap lift somebody whose work you admire, but you can put your own spin on it. Now, sometimes I try very hard not to use too many doilies in my scrapping, but I find them very good to help break up background elements. So in this case, I've just used a little bit of doily. I've got a Charms Creation heart there as well. And then putting the layout together is a simple matter of just adding the title, and this particular page is complete. So I hope you enjoyed that from me. I hope you're inspired to play along with the mood board this month over at Off the Rails, and we look forward to seeing your layouts. Please, of course, subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.